Did you know that the foundation of the Catholic Church might not be what you've always been taught? You might have heard that it began with Peter, the apostle of Jesus, the one whom Jesus supposedly declared as the foundation of his church. But what if I told you that the story is much more complex, even contradictory at times? What if the true origins of the Catholic Church go beyond what you've been told, filled with political maneuvering, power struggles, and human decisions that shaped its very existence? What if I told you that Peter, though an important figure, may not have been the sole founder of the church as we know it today? As we delve into the early years of Christianity, the rise of the Catholic Church, and the pivotal events that led to its dominance, you might be shocked by what you discover. The church's foundation was not built overnight by a single person, nor was it solely a divine act. It was a long, complex process influenced by countless factors that continue to shape the church today. Before we dive deeper into this journey of discovery, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more fascinating content about history, faith, and the world's most influential institutions. By subscribing, you'll be part of a growing community, and you'll get all the latest updates as we uncover the secrets behind the church and many other powerful stories. Now, let's get started. If the origins of the Catholic Church were purely based on Peter's direct divine mandate, it would imply that the church was always a unified institution from the very beginning. However, if the foundation was a result of human decisions, debates, and political influence, the church's development would have been far more complex, filled with internal struggles, controversies, and power plays, leading to the emergence of an institution that may not be as purely spiritual as many believe. The implications of this would challenge not only the foundations of the Catholic Church, but also the way we view its role in history and the formation of Christian doctrine. The first topic we will explore in this video is the foundation of the Catholic Church and its origin. Many people have been taught that the Catholic Church was established by the Apostle Peter, with Jesus' words, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church," serving as a foundation for this belief. However, when we dive deeper into the history of Christianity, we see that the story of the church's creation is far more nuanced and intricate than simply a divine proclamation made by Jesus. The concept of Peter as the first pope is deeply rooted in Catholic tradition, but there is much debate about whether this was the true origin of the church. The term Catholic Church itself wasn't even used by the early Christians. In fact, it wasn't until around 107 AD, when Ignatius of Antioch first referred to the Christian community as Catholic, meaning universal, that the term began to take hold. This is a significant point because it suggests that the original apostles and followers of Christ did not have a clear, unified vision of what the church would become. The concept of the church as an institution came much later, influenced not only by theological decisions, but also by political and social factors. This reality leads to the question, who really decided that the church should be called a Catholic Church? What was the driving force behind this decision? The church's foundation wasn't a single moment or one individual, but rather the result of centuries of decisions, debates, and shifts in the Christian community. The early Christians, who were often persecuted and oppressed, were scattered and living in secret. They didn't have the political power or unity to establish a single, centralized institution. Instead, the formation of the church was a slow, complex process marked by internal disagreements, theological debates, and external pressures. One of the key moments that shaped the course of the church's development was the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, during the reign of Emperor Constantine. Constantine's conversion to Christianity marked a turning point, but his motivations weren't entirely spiritual. As a political leader, he saw the potential of Christianity to unify the fractured Roman Empire. This brings us to the next critical question. How much of the Catholic Church, as we know it today, was shaped by human decisions, politics, and power plays, rather than being purely based on divine guidance? The second topic we will examine is the role of Peter in the establishment of the church. According to Catholic tradition, Peter is considered the first pope, and his position as a leader of the church is foundational to the church's authority structure. This belief is primarily based on Jesus' words to Peter, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church," found in Matthew 16, verse 18. These words have been interpreted to mean that Peter was designated by Jesus as the leader of the Christian community and the one upon whom the church would be built. However, This interpretation is not as straightforward as it might seem, and there is significant debate about what Jesus truly meant. In the New Testament, Peter does play a central role in the early church, particularly in the Acts of the Apostles. However, even within the Bible, Peter is never explicitly referred to as the supreme leader of the church. In fact, in several instances, the Apostle James, a brother of Jesus, is depicted as holding a position of authority. For example, during the Council of Jerusalem, Acts 15, James takes a leading role in making key decisions regarding the inclusion of Gentiles in the Christian community. This raises a question. If Peter was truly meant to be the leader, why is James portrayed as such an influential figure? Another point of contention is the interpretation of the word rock in Matthew 16, verse 18. While Catholic tradition holds that Jesus was referring to Peter himself as the rock upon which the church would be built, other Christian denominations interpret this passage differently. Some argue that Jesus was referring not to Peter but to the faith that Peter expressed in his declaration that Jesus was the Christ. This interpretation suggests that the foundation of the church is not based on a single individual, but on the faith in Jesus Christ and the proclamation of his divinity. Furthermore, the Bible never uses the term Catholic Church, and the early Christian community did not see itself as a singular, centralized institution. The early church was a loose network of communities spread throughout the Roman Empire, each with their own leadership structures and practices. It wasn't until later that the church began to solidify into the hierarchical institution we recognize today. The fact that Peter's role was interpreted and reinterpreted over the centuries, and that there was no single moment of official recognition for his papal authority, raises important questions about the development of the papacy and the institutionalization of church authority. Peter's role in the formation of the church is also influenced by the theological and political circumstances that shaped the early centuries of Christianity. The establishment of the papacy, the development of the church's hierarchy, and the increasing power of the Bishop of Rome were influenced not only by spiritual matters, but by the power struggles, political decisions, and social dynamics of time. This reveals that the foundation of the church, while rooted in faith, was also shaped by human decisions, interpretations of Scripture, and the political realities of time. In conclusion, while Peter undeniably played a key role in the early Christian community, the idea of him as the sole founder of the Catholic Church is much more complex than tradition suggests. His role, as well as the formation of the church itself, was a product of centuries of theological, political, and human decisions. This raises profound questions about the true origins of the church and the ways in which power and faith intersect in the development of religious institutions. The third topic we will explore is the rise of Christianity under Constantine the Great and a significant role in shaping the Catholic Church as we know it today. Constantine's conversion to Christianity in the early 4th century marked a dramatic shift in the history of Christianity, but it was not purely an act of faith. Constantine's political savvy and strategic vision played a major role in his decision to embrace Christianity, and this decision would have lasting implications for both the Church and the Roman Empire. In 313 AD, Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, which legalized Christianity and put an end to the severe persecution of Christians that had been rampant throughout the Roman Empire. This moment was a turning point for Christians who had once been hunted, executed, and oppressed for their faith. Constantine's conversion allowed Christianity to move from the fringes of society into the mainstream, paving the way for it to become the dominant religion of the Roman Empire. But this move was not simply driven by personal belief. It was also a political maneuver. Constantine understood the power of religion to unify a divided empire and saw Christianity as a tool for creating political stability and legitimacy. At this time, the Roman Empire was fractured with internal conflicts and external threats. The empire needed a unifying force, and Christianity, with its message of hope, community, and moral order, seemed like a perfect solution. Constantine used his newfound faith to unite the people under a common belief system, transforming Christianity from a persecuted sect into the state religion. The shift from being a marginalized religion to being the official faith of the empire would drastically change the nature of the church and its influence on the world. However, Constantine's relationship with Christianity was complex. While he officially adopted the Christian faith, he did not entirely abandon his pagan practices. He continued to celebrate pagan rituals and even maintain his position as the head of pagan religious rites until his death. Constantine's official conversion to Christianity was significant, but it also raised questions about the sincerity of his faith. Did he truly believe in the teachings of Christ, or was he more interested in using Christianity as a political tool to strengthen his rule? His baptism on his deathbed, just before his passing, further complicates his legacy as a devout Christian. Some historians argue that Constantine's conversion was driven more by political expediency than by a true, transformative spiritual experience. Despite the ambiguity surrounding Constantine's personal faith, his impact on the church was undeniable. His decision to make Christianity the state religion set in motion the events that would eventually lead to the establishment of the Catholic Church as a political and spiritual powerhouse. Constantine's influence extended beyond his lifetime, with his successors continuing to champion Christianity and use it as a means to maintain control over the Roman Empire. This period of Christianization of the empire laid the groundwork for the Church to become not only a religious institution, but also a powerful force in shaping the political, cultural, and social landscape of Europe for centuries to come. The fourth topic we will delve into is the Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, a pivotal event in the history of Christianity that played a significant role in shaping Christian doctrine and the structure of the Catholic Church. The Council of Nicaea was convened by Constantine the Great, and it brought together Christian leaders from across the Roman Empire to address critical theological and doctrinal issues that were dividing the Christian community. The decisions made at this council were foundational in establishing the orthodoxy of Christian beliefs and helped solidify the Church's power and influence. One of the key issues addressed at the Council of Nicaea was the nature of Jesus Christ, specifically whether he was fully divine, fully human, or a combination of both. This theological debate had been a source of division in the early Christian community, with various factions holding differing views. The most prominent dispute was between Arius, a Christian priest, who argued that Jesus was a created being and not of the same essence as God the Father, and Athanasius, who defended the belief that Jesus was fully divine and co-eternal with God. This disagreement threatened to split the Christian community and create a rift between different Christian groups. The Council of Nicaea, under the leadership of Constantine, sought to resolve this dispute and establish a unified belief about the nature of Christ. The result was the Nicene Creed, a statement of faith that affirmed the belief in the full divinity and humanity of Jesus. The Nicene Creed became the cornerstone of Christian orthodoxy and has remained a foundational declaration of Christian faith to this day. This doctrinal decision not only defined the Christian understanding of Jesus, but also marked the beginning of a more formalized Christian theology that would continue to evolve in the centuries to come. However, the Council of Nicaea was not just a theological event. It was also a deeply political one. Constantine, as the emperor, saw the importance of establishing a unified Christian doctrine in order to maintain unity within the empire. He recognized that religious unity was essential for political stability, and that a divided church could weaken his authority and the cohesion of the empire. Thus, the Council of Nicaea was not merely a spiritual gathering, but a strategic political move to consolidate Constantine's power and ensure the dominance of Christianity as the state religion. The Council of Nicaea also laid the groundwork for the future of the Catholic Church as an institution. It marked the beginning of the Church's involvement in defining and codifying doctrine, establishing a hierarchy of leadership, and determining the canon of Christian texts. The decisions made at Nicaea set a precedent for future councils and theological debates, and the Church began to emerge as a powerful institution with both spiritual and political authority. As the Church's influence grew, so did its role in shaping the laws, culture, and policies of the Roman Empire and later Europe. Despite the significance of the Council of Nicaea, the process was not without controversy. There were strong disagreements and even violence surrounding the decisions made at the council. Many Christians who did not agree with the Nicene Creed were persecuted, and some were exiled. Theological debates continued to rage for centuries after the council, and the idea of a unified Christian doctrine was far from universally accepted. The Council of Nicaea, however, remains a turning point in the history of the Church, marking the beginning of its transformation into the institution we recognize today. In conclusion, The Council of Nicaea was a defining moment in the establishment of Christian orthodoxy and the consolidation of power within the Church. It was not only a religious event but a political one, as Constantine sought to use the Church to strengthen his empire. The Council's decision set the stage for the future of Christianity, and its influence is still felt today in the teachings and practices of the Catholic Church and other Christian denominations. The fourth topic we will examine is the mark of the beast, a symbol that has become one of the most well-known and feared aspects of the book of Revelation. Described in Revelation 13, verses 16 to 17, the mark of the beast is a symbol of allegiance to the Antichrist, representing the final test of loyalty between God and the forces of evil. According to the vision, the mark will be placed on the right hand or forehead of those who follow the beast, and without it, no one will be able to buy or sell. This mark is said to be a means of economic and social control, forcing individuals to choose between their faith and their survival in a society governed by the Antichrist. The mark of the beast has been interpreted in many ways throughout history, from being a literal physical mark to representing a broader concept of allegiance or submission to a corrupt system. In the biblical context, it serves as a sign of the ultimate rebellion against God, as those who accept the mark are seen as rejecting God's sovereignty. The symbolism of the mark on the hand or forehead suggests that the allegiance to the beast is not just an external act, but also a mental and spiritual commitment, as both the mind, forehead, and actions, hand, are involved in this submission. The mark represents a decisive moment in the final tribulation period, when humanity will be forced to make a choice, align with the world and its systems of power, or remain faithful to God, even at the cost of one's life. This conflict between loyalty to God and conformity to the Antichrist empire will be a defining feature of the end times. Those who refuse the mark will face persecution, economic hardship, and even death as they resist the widespread pressure to conform. On the other hand, those who accept the mark will be rejecting God and aligning themselves with evil, an act that carries severe spiritual consequences, as described in Revelation 14, verses 9 to 10. Where it said that those who worship the beast and receive his mark will face the full wrath of God. Throughout history, many have speculated about what the mark of the beast might look like or how it might manifest in the modern world. Some believe it could be a literal mark, like a tattoo or microchip, while others view it as a metaphorical symbol of loyalty to a corrupt system. The ongoing debate about the nature of the mark reflects the fear and uncertainty surrounding the final events of the book of Revelation. However, the core message remains clear. The mark of the beast is the ultimate sign of spiritual allegiance to the forces of evil, and those who accept it will face eternal separation from God. The mark of the beast also serves as a reminder of the importance of spiritual vigilance and faithfulness in the face of temptation and pressure. It underscores the necessity of standing firm in one's beliefs and resisting the lure of worldly power, fame, or wealth, which may be used to coerce people into abandoning their faith. For believers, the mark of the beast symbolizes the ultimate spiritual test, where the cost of loyalty to God is measured by the willingness to endure suffering and persecution. In the book of Revelation focuses on the beast and the false prophet, two powerful figures who play a crucial role in the final battle between good and evil. The beast, often associated with the Antichrist, is depicted as a malevolent and tyrannical ruler who seeks to control the world and force humanity to worship him. The false prophet, a religious leader who supports the beast, performs signs and wonders to deceive the masses and lead them into idolatry. These two figures represent the forces of evil and deception that will dominate the earth during the last days. The beast is described in Revelation 13 as having 10 horns and 7 heads, symbolizing his immense power and authority. He is given power by the dragon, Satan, and is able to perform miraculous signs that deceive many people. The beast is also associated with the number 666, which has become a symbol of corruption, rebellion, and opposition to God. Those who follow the beast are forced to worship him and take his mark, as described in Revelation 13, verses 16 to 17. The beast's reign is marked by oppression, persecution, and a complete submission of humanity to his authority. His ultimate goal is to overthrow God and establish a world ruled by Satan, where all people are required to worship him and reject the true God. The false prophet plays a complementary role to the beast. Described in Revelation 13, verses 11 to 15, the false prophet is a deceptive religious leader who performs miracles to convince people to worship the beast. He is described as having 2 horns like a lamb, but speaking like a dragon, symbolizing the false, deceitful nature of his message. The false prophet deceives people by performing signs and wonders, such as making fire come down from heaven, which causes many to follow the beast and accept his authority. His role is to lead people away from the true faith and convince them to worship the beast as if he were a god. The alliance between the beast and the false prophet represents the unholy union of political power and religious deception. Together, they will bring about the ultimate rebellion against God, leading the world into apostasy, idolatry, and destruction. The power of the beast and the false prophet will be so great that they will deceive even the elect, if possible, making it essential for believers to remain vigilant and faithful to the truth of God's word. However, as Revelation 19 verse 20 describes, the beast and the false prophet will ultimately be defeated by Christ. They will be thrown alive into the lake of fire, symbolizing the eternal defeat of evil and the victory of God's kingdom. The defeat of the beast and the false prophet serves as a powerful reminder of the inevitability of God's triumph over evil. Despite the power and influence they will wield in the last days, they will ultimately be cast down and destroyed by Christ's return. The message of their defeat provides hope for believers, knowing that no matter how powerful the forces of evil may seem, they are ultimately powerless before God's authority. This victory is a promise that the reign of evil will come to an end, and Christ's kingdom of righteousness, peace, and justice will prevail forever. The beast and the false prophet represent the culmination of evil in the world, but their destruction is a foretaste of the final victory that Christ will bring. Their defeat is not just a victory over 2 figures, but a symbolic triumph over all evil, showing that God will restore justice and establish his eternal kingdom. For believers, the defeat of the beast and the false prophet is a call to remain faithful, knowing that the final victory belongs to God and that evil will not have the last word.